Good morning, everyone. Welcome everyone to our program. Today, I will very glad to share with you the creative video project we are recently working on. This is the first assignment in the course title, LMCP 1632 Home and You, with the title Protect Project, Universal Ownership of Housing Issues, Challenges, and Sustainable Solution. I'm Gan Yongbu, and I will talk with my partner Wu Chunfeng in our program about why owning a house not only means owning a project, but also related to human dignity and sustainable of the family. And this is the content. Having a safe and comfortable home can make the family feel protected, united, and able to create a better future together. It is regarded as a basic human right and can promote happier and healthier community development.
And unsustainable. As such, the United Nations 11th Sustainable Development Goal is to make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. Reforms carried out under SDG 11 will focus primarily on the two related areas of making cities better for residents and making cities better for the environment. To improve cities for residents, more attention needs to be paid to the dire situation of slums in most of the world's metropolitan areas. Upgrading slums, ensuring affordable housing and basic services like water and electricity, as well as developing or improving public transport systems and making cities and city services more accessible for marginalized groups like women, children, and those with disabilities will be very important to making cities sustainable and enjoyable places. Also to this end, SDG 11 hopes to have safe and accessible green areas and public spaces, like parks, for every city dweller to bring back more humanity into the city life. Protecting heritage sites, cultural and natural, is also related to this aim, and it is important in creating spaces that people feel attached to and want to take care of. Encouraging plans for sustainable urbanization and setting up long-lasting sustainable practices will make it easier for cities to grow over time. It is so easy for people to slip under the radar and fall into dangerous situations in cities, so another goal of SDG 11 is to substantially lower the death rate in cities related to various forms of incidents. Specifically, environmentally focused, cities are some of the biggest polluters, so another aim of SDG 11 would be to significantly reduce environmental footprints of cities, paying special attention to air quality and waste management, increasing the number of human settlements, and encouraging positive economic, social, and environmental links between urban, peri-urban, and rural areas put all areas on the right path towards sustainable urbanization. Allowing for extra aid to developing countries will also be vital in meeting the aims of SDG 11. Progress towards SDG 11 is not the most encouraging. The numbers say that the percentage of urban population relegated to the slums have fallen 20 percentage points since 1990. But at the same time, the urban population has been growing rapidly, meaning that in absolute terms, approximately the same number of people still live in the slums. Urban areas are also growing at a rate 1.28 times faster than their populations, which has led to unsustainable resource use, something that needs more regulation to ensure that the negative repercussions do not spread too far. Most cities do now have access to green areas and public spaces, albeit limited, but 9 out of 10 people in urban areas are still breathing air considered too polluted by the World Health Organization, and at least 2 billion people still don't have access to adequate waste management services. It is true, however, that as of 2019, 150 nations have drawn up sustainable urbanization plans, and at least half of these nations are in the process of implementing their plans, which is an important part of SDG 11. Renewed efforts will be needed to reach all the aims of SDG 11 and create pleasant and sustainable cities by 2030.
So, these issues is closely linking to Sustainable Development Goal 11, which calls for cities and humans sustainable to be inclusive, safe, related, and sustainable. Adorable housing makes this process by creating equal opportunity, reducing progress, and encouraging more balanced user and growth.
When people choose where to live, they usually think about few main factors. First, location, like being near jobs, schools, and public transport. Second, price and financial transparency. This is often difficult, especially for B40 and M40 income groups who face rising housing prices. Third, eligibility and support. Government programs such as PR1MA, RUMAWIP, and PPR help many families. Lastly, there are personal needs like family size, design, and in-house facilities. But there are also many challenges. They aren't naturally affordable homes. Property speculation prices even higher. Some houses have poor construction quality. Many families struggle to get learnable approvals, and some simply don't know about the help that's available.
New Year's Eve in Sydney is a spectacular event, one that is broadcast all over the globe. The fireworks around the Harbour Bridge and the Opera House are often the first images people all over the world see of the new year. But have you ever thought about how sustainable an event like this is? The city of Sydney, which has committed to achieving net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2050, wanted to find this out and commissioned a carbon footprint study. They found that their 2015 New Year's Eve event, which includes a fireworks display, lighting effects and parade, and various events and serviced sites, resulted in 550 tons of carbon dioxide emissions. Just to put this into perspective, it would take over 5,000 trees around 30 years to offset these emissions. But what were the major sources of these emissions? You would intuitively think that direct consumption of electricity used for lighting the event, diesel generators, and fireworks might be the biggest culprits. What the study found was perhaps surprising. Food and catering for the event was the largest contributor, as well as a range of other third-party services including printing, advertising, meat products, wine, beer, merchandise, and so on. While much of the emissions from the consumption of these goods and services did not occur on New Year's Eve, and not even within the city of Sydney itself, it is important that we also consider these as part of the total carbon footprint. In fact, studies have found that emissions from the consumption of goods and services can expand a city's carbon footprint 2 to 3 times over its direct emissions from driving cars or heating homes. This has important implications for the way we measure the sustainability of cities and the responses we take to make cities sustainable. Hi. My name is Tommy Wiedmann. I'm a professor of sustainability research at the School of Civil and Environmental Engineering at UNSW Sydney. The world has changed a lot since 1950, just after the United Nations were created. At that time, it was only 30% urban, with just 750 million people living in cities. Today, more than half of us live in cities, over 3.5 billion people. And by 2050, 2/3 of all humanity, that is 6.5 billion people, will be urban. This means we will need to build a new city for 1 million people every week to keep up or manage the growth of the cities we already have. Cities are the powerhouses of economic growth, contributing over 80% of global gross domestic product and functioning as catalysts for inclusion and innovation. However, cities also account for about 70% of global energy consumption, greenhouse gas emissions, and resource consumption. The environmental impact of cities extends far beyond their borders, driving global consumption and resource use and climate change. Sustainable development cannot be achieved without significantly transforming the way we build and manage our urban spaces. This means establishing cities that are inclusive, creating opportunities for employment and a better life for all city dwellers, and providing affordable necessities such as housing, water, sanitation, healthcare, energy and transport. Safe and resilient in the face of shocks and stresses such as natural disasters and climate change impacts, health epidemics, and economic crisis. And environmentally sustainable by reducing consumption of natural resources and the production of waste and pollution, smart land use and transport planning, and ensuring that the overall environmental footprint of cities does not exceed planetary limits. The good news is that we can transform most existing cities to make them more sustainable. And we can also build new sustainable and resilient cities in Asia and Africa, where 2/3 of the future demand for buildings and infrastructure is still to be met. This could well turn the tide over the next 20 to 30 years, creating new economic opportunities and hundreds of millions of jobs that young people from these regions require. This aspirational process to transform the lives and livelihoods of 5 billion people who live in cities by 2030 lies at the very heart of the Sustainable Development Goal number 11. But what are the features of a good or sustainable city? We can explore this question by looking at some of the many global assessments that attempt to rank cities based on their livability and sustainability. According to the Economist Intelligence Unit, livability is the key to a good city. They assess and rank an individual's lifestyle or living conditions in 140 cities worldwide based on attributes such as stability, healthcare and environment, education and infrastructure. Australia's cities perform extremely well under this livability index, with 3 cities in the top 10. Melbourne is on 2nd place, Sydney on 3rd and Adelaide is on 10th place. This highlights that Australia's major cities are relatively safe with low crime rates, have good access to healthcare and education, are well serviced by infrastructure including transport, energy, water and communications, and have a vibrant culture for entertainment, sports and civil engagement. In other words, they are safe, inclusive, fun and highly livable. But what about environmental sustainability? Cities consume the bulk of global energy and resources with footprints that extend far beyond their boundaries, driving global climate change that will in turn undermine their livability and resilience. The Sustainable Cities Index, published by Arcadis, ranks 100 global cities on 3 pillars of sustainability: people, planet and profit. These stand for the social, environmental and economic dimensions of sustainability. Based on this index, the top performers are mostly established European metropolises, with London ranked as the world's most sustainable city in 2018, followed by Stockholm, Edinburgh, Singapore and Vienna. Sydney is the top-ranking Australian city, but comes in at only 34th place in the rankings. These top-performing cities tend to have high performance across the 3 pillars of a sustainable city, with high scores in areas such as the affordability of city life, access to public transport, income equality, employment, business infrastructure, low-carbon energy infrastructure, sustainable transport, and significant green spaces. However, many global assessments fail to also consider environmental impacts associated with the massive consumption of resources in cities, which extend far beyond their boundaries. An important way to measure these is through the use of footprint metrics, for example for carbon, water and biodiversity. A global assessment of the carbon footprint of 13,000 cities found that carbon footprints are highly concentrated into a small number of dense, high-income cities and affluent suburbs. In fact, the top 100 cities drive 18% of global emissions and climate change. For these cities, most of their emissions are due to broader impacts from the consumption of goods and services rather than the city's direct emissions. Let's look again at the top-ranked sustainable city of London. Based on its carbon footprint per capita, it ranks very high at 16th out of 13,000 cities. Australian cities such as Melbourne, Sydney and Brisbane also have large footprints, falling easily in the top 100 cities globally. Would you consider this sustainable? To avoid climate breakdown, emissions from global urban consumption must halve by 2030. For this to be achieved, emissions from consumption in high-income cities, such as Sydney, must decrease by 2/3 within the next decade. This will require considerable changes to the way we produce and use energy, our transport systems and built environment, but also in our behaviors and lifestyles towards more sustainable consumption patterns. It is clear from these examples that the concept of a sustainable city is complex and multifaceted. SDG 11 provides a roadmap towards more inclusive, sustainable and resilient cities by 2030. So, what can you do to increase the sustainability of your city and help achieve SDG 11? Some practical actions that you can take include: live car-free, walk or ride your bike, or take public transport. Take one less flight, reduce the number of flights you take each year, and instead have a vacation in your local communities. Change your diet to reduce or remove meat and dairy consumption. Increase organics and compost your food waste. Reduce the number of new clothing items that you buy each year. As you can see, there are many ways in which you can contribute to make your city more sustainable.
So to solve this problem, we can use SDG-based solution. Government can strategize public housing strategies and make more strategic part. We should also improve financial literature, teaching people, especially the young, how to manage money and play a hand. New building maths like IBS and BIM can help reduce cost and improve quality. And finally, design include communities can help people of different backgrounds living together peacefully.
In conclusion, owning a house is not merely about pursuing a property. It also relates to dignity, family stability, and the construction of more incredible and environmentally friendly cities. By integrating more comprehensive policies, wisely applying technology, and adopting people-oriented planning, we can make housing more affordable and make cities more sustainable, training building for the future of all. Thank you everyone for watching our creative